Murderabilia. Is it ever appropriate to make money off of murder? Well, many people accuse me of that when I do my true crime podcast. You're just making money off of murder. But in the case of Rex Heuermann and the Long Island serial killer or Gilgo Beach murder, is his wife Asa simply making money off of her husband's alleged crimes? Why is law enforcement fighting her over who gets to sell off the property and make money off of the crimes? Is it okay for law enforcement to make the money and not Asa? And is this making her some sort of monster, an opportunist, or is she just desperate? Now, sure, there are many questions about what Asa knew about her husband's crimes. I mean, she was married to him for 27 years, and allegedly, according to some sources, he was killing women in the basement of their house, and she was completely oblivious. So were her two adult children living in the house. Many have asked, how is that even possible? How did, for example, she not question her husband renovating the house when she was out of town, having a room that she was not allowed to go into in her own home, a secret vault that had soundproof walls, and not question what was going on in the basement? What woman would accept the answer of there's certain places in this house you are not allowed to go into? But these are the things that happen. And this woman had married this man when she was very, very young and working at a 7-Eleven, and then never had a job again for the rest of her 27 years of their marriage, and focused primarily on taking care of their two adult children. So when Rex Heuermann was arrested, and in July of 2023, when Suffolk County came in and did a 12-day search of the house, trying to find evidence of the murders of Rex Heuermann, the alleged serial killer, the Long Island serial killer, or LISK as some people call it, or the Gilgo Beach murders. It was the Gilgo 4 that originally kicked this off. When they came to her house, they destroyed the house, tore down walls, took out drain pipes, destroyed beds and furniture, crushed personal belongings, and then, of course, as typical law enforcement fashion, never paid her back a single dime for destroying all of her belongings, left her house in complete shambles. When she moved back in, one of the things that she also found is that law enforcement had opened up the vault and seized some $300,000 worth of firearms that her husband had been collecting. He had been an avid collector since very young, and had 280 to 300 firearms in the basement of that house, and they seized those weapons. Now, Asa, of course, said, look, the only thing of value left in my house, I have no job, you've destroyed my home, and the only thing of value I have left is these firearms. And law enforcement said, you know, that just seems a little disgusting, you asking for the firearms back when your husband is a serial killer. And so they basically fought her. Now, that is an oversimplification and perhaps not exactly how they worded it, but there were many mainstream articles that suggested that there was some bad optics, if you will, of Asa asking for the firearms belonging to her husband, even though law enforcement concluded that none of the murders of the Gilgo murders or the Long Island serial killer were committed with a firearm, and therefore these weapons were not used in the commission of those crimes. Now, having said that, a fight ensued because law enforcement stated that the firearms, some of them were illegal firearms, and so they want to keep all the firearms. I wonder if it's because they really are concerned about illegal firearms, or is it because they're worth $300,000, and that would do the law enforcement department a lot more good than Asa, who is broke and, by the way, lost her health insurance because her husband was covering her health insurance, of course, through his job. And when he got arrested, she lost her health insurance. So now her family is devastated. She has no job. House has been destroyed. It's in shambles. They're not going to pay a dime to her. They seize the only thing of value that she has is hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of firearms in the house, and then tell her, hey, we want to make the money off that, not you. Now, Asa got herself into a little bit of trouble when she did several other things. Now, one of which, not a big deal, she immediately filed for divorce after her husband was arrested for these crimes. And then Rex signed over the house that was solely in his name, apparently, to his wife and sold it to her for $1, allowing her now to sell the home and make profit off the home. And some might argue that there is going to be some opportunist or creepy people out there who want to buy the house of a serial killer where murders literally may have happened in the basement. Is Asa, for example, some kind of monster or opportunist for wanting to sell the house of an alleged serial killer? Yes, this is the house where women may have been brutally killed. In my house. Buy it from me and pay handsomely. And someone will. Now, does that make her a disgusting human being, or does it make her desperate? Because again, she has no life skills. She hasn't ever worked for 27 years. She's got two adult children she still takes care of, and she has no insurance anymore because even that's been taken to her. So at the one hand, we have to ask ourselves, is she some kind of creepy for making money. If she did, for example, suggest that the house might go for more money because it was owned by a killer and maybe deaths happened in that house, tortures happened in that house, would that make her a horrible person? Or would it make her desperate, trying to find some way to pay for her family and their future? Now, she got herself into a bit of trouble recently over an eBay listing where she listed a truck, a Jeep, among other murderabilia, as they call it, things belonging to her husband that are pitched, for example, on eBay with clever little things like, hey, by the way, if you're a true crimer, it might be of note that this was owned by Lisk, Long Island serial killer, during the time that he committed the murders. That kind of language is basically profiting off of potentially her husband's killing, making those items worth more money because those out there in the public who have that creepy vibe want to own something owned by a killer. Again, who's the creepy person here? Is it the wife trying to get some kind of money out of a house that's in shambles and had been destroyed so that she can pay for her family, and taking advantage of the fact that somebody out there who's creepy will pay extra money for items belonging to a serial killer? Who is the creepy person? Is it the person trying to make that money because they have nothing else, or the people who actually want to go pay her big amounts of money and do the auction? Now, eBay ultimately shut down that purchase or that sale of the Jeep, for example, the Murderabilia, and basically shut it down, saying that that's against their policies. By the way, as a little aside, I wanted to tell you, I once got into sports collecting. I had baseball and hockey cards and basketball cards. One basketball card I had in a set that was worth junk. It was like 10 cents a card. It had no value. All of a sudden I had a card that was worth like $27 in my collection when I was looking at databases, and like, why is this card worth $27? The reason being is that particular card had the Menendez brothers who killed their parents, right? And then used the money to buy courtside seats at a Lakers game, I think it was, or was it Boston game? Anyways, they bought courtside seats and they got right on the court with their picture. So they got a basketball player in the foreground, and right behind it you see the Menendez brothers in the front row. That card sells for a lot of money because it's related to killers. And I as well wanted to be like, hey, this card doesn't really mean all that much to me. I don't really care that the Menendez brothers in this picture. I want the $27 for the card. And I also had my listing taken off eBay telling how I violated the terms of service because I was profiting off of murder. All I had was a $27 card in a set that's worth shit, and I thought I would like to make my $27. Was I a monster? Was I an opportunist? Was I just desperate or wanted my fucking $27 because I could make $27? Who's the monster, and where do you draw the line? Now, I want to close today by just sharing a couple of articles with you to show you how mainstream media has handled those two things. We're going to focus a little bit, and we'll close with the question that you might want to ask yourself today. Who is the monster? Or is there a monster? Is Asa an opportunist or just desperate? So let's take a look at a few things here and put it on the screen. All right, so we're going to cover this Fox News article about the guns, right? And again, different news sources have portrayed her as being somehow a sketchy person for wanting the firearms. What kind of sick woman would want the firearms back of her husband? He's a serial killer. That just looks really creepy and horrible. And that's kind of how it was spun in several articles that I read. So here we go. We're going to read: suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann's wife wants to sell a gun collection seized by the police. $300,000 collection includes antiques from the Civil War, World Wars I and II. And so you scroll down. The wife of an alleged serial killer is asking authorities to give back the guns that are seized in the search of the family home as she struggles with cancer and medical bills and is divorcing her husband, who prosecutors say led a double life as an unassuming architect and brutal murderer. Asa Ellerup, that's his wife, the wife of suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer, also known as Lisk, Long Island serial killer. And so you'll see my titles of my thumbnails going forward have Lisk and Gilgo Beach. They're both kind of synonymous terms, but Lisk is a popular one coming up. So she lost her health insurance when her husband was arrested, forced the collapse of his business shortly after she learned she had cancer. There is no forensic value in the case from the guns of Heuermann's 2012 Chevrolet or his 2012 Chevrolet Avalanche, according to Ellerup's lawyer Bob Macedonio. I should have got that name correct before we said Macedonio. Donio. I don't know. I should probably learn that shit before I start talking about it. I'm just reading that on the fly. That's my mistake. We'll get that fixed later on. Just the optics of returning the firearms to the home of an alleged serial killer. So again, here's somebody suggesting that it's bad optics of returning firearms to the home of alleged serial killer. Now, at the end of the day, law enforcement wants to keep those guns because it's worth a shit ton of money, and they would like to make the money. So it's great to shame Asa for wanting the guns back that has a $300,000 value, because it's just bad optics wanting to return firearms to the home of alleged serial killer. So the collection, which includes antiques from American Civil War and World War I and II, is worth an estimated $300,000, her attorney says. So the solution would be to have the guns appraised by a licensed dealer and sold off like any other material assets to the couple's ongoing divorce. Now, the question you have to ask yourself again, if while selling those guns, it just happens to be mentioned, hey, these are guns and firearms owned by the Long Island serial killer or alleged serial killer, to get an increase of their value, does that make her a disgusting person, or does it make her desperate, or make her an opportunist? We'll continue on just with a few more thoughts. She doesn't want the guns. This is what her attorney says. She wants the money from them. And again, is that a horrible thing, or is it desperation? The family's financial situation is shaky, her lawyer said. See, I'm not even going to attempt to say that shit. They were already living in the only ramshackle home on the block in the neatly manicured Massapequa Park suburb of New York City. By the way, that was one of the things. If you look at the neighborhood, the houses are really nice. The house they lived in was a shithole already. For some reason, Rex Heuermann, who made a decent living and was an architect, ironically enough, didn't keep his house up. It was his household, or his childhood home. He lived in the same home he grew up in. There's even some weird, creepy things that maybe Rex had a bad childhood and somehow kept and preserved his basement or his bedroom and turned that into a kill room. That's a fascinating story in itself. What kind of person would do that? Did he keep his childhood abuse area home and turn his bedroom into a kill room? That's another story. The point being is that the house was basically a shithole in a place that had relatively decent homes. Days of police activity left it even worse off, as they cut through walls and floors, dug up the backyard, and left items in a disarray while hunting for evidence they hoped to find tying Heuermann to the cold case serial murders. And again, as often happens with law enforcement, when they suspect you of something, they come in and they absolutely destroy your house, destroy your belongings, toss everything, break shit, and they do not pay for it when they leave. You have to sue them and hope to win a lawsuit against wrongful breaking of your shit. And they often basically kind of flaunt it in your face, I found. Like happened to recently, was it Karen Reed, when I saw on TV a judge and another person in law basically talking about what happens to Karen Reed's nice brand new SUV that she owned, which has been destroyed and torn apart by law enforcement during the forensic investigation, if she's found not guilty, which, by the way, she was found not guilty. And the judge laughed and said, oh, she'll get her car back in exactly the condition it is now after we've destroyed it. And they thought that shit was funny. This kind of shit in America needs to stop. Law enforcement breaking your shit, stealing your shit, fighting you over who gets to make money off of your shit, making you the demon because you want to get your shit back and your money back, and you want to get paid for them breaking your shit, but they'll demonize you and make it look like something's wrong with you because, well, you're an alleged wife of a serial killer. How disgusting for you. Bad day for you. All right. Ellerup has been living off the savings and a GoFundMe campaign set up by Melissa Moore, who herself is the daughter of a serial killer. And here we go. Ellerup and her adult children could use the money as they look to restore some normalcy in their lives after police brought charges in the cold case investigation following months-long effort from a new task force established more than a decade after the bodies were found. Heuermann's daughter, who worked in the father's, now here's another key. Heuermann's daughter, who worked in her father's now defunct architecture firm, is out of work and under pressure from clients who want their deposits back, the lawyer says. The adult son lives with his mother and collects disability payments. So again, now the family not only lost their sole breadwinner, which was Rex Heuermann, who's depicted in this picture on the screen. Not only did they lose their father, who was the sole breadwinner, lost their insurance, but people want to now basically countersue his business and get their deposits back. The family doesn't have any money to fucking pay the deposits back. So who is... I get it. The people who were out money, I get it. They want their money back. I get that. But I'm just saying, who is the victim here, right? So, however, Suffolk County prosecutors who have jurisdiction over the serial slayings have asked the court for permission to turn the guns over to law enforcement. So Suffolk County prosecutors want to give the guns, the $300,000 in guns, to law enforcement so they can sell them off and make the money. Isn't that a great deal for somebody? Somebody's going to make money off those guns. Somebody. It's either going to be a law enforcement or Asa. You tell me, as you think through this, who do you think deserves the money? Is it the wife of the serial killer who may have been somehow a horrible person because there's no way she couldn't have known? By the way, in case you don't know the story well enough, Rex Heuermann allegedly committed the crimes whenever his wife and children would leave the house on vacation. They would go on vacation from time to time, and he would do the killings allegedly during the time they were out of town. So to answer the question, yeah, how is it she couldn't know that people were being murdered in his own basement? Well, the answer is allegedly Rex Heuermann was committing the murders in the home when the family was away from the house, just so you know. All right. However, according to the lawyer, who I'm not going to pronounce that name until I figure out how to do it, the vast majority of the nearly 300 seized guns were legally owned and should be sold as material assets and not considered evidence. But again, law enforcement wants to fight over and keep this as evidence. By the way, we have this process in America where people often, or the law enforcement often, seize drug dealers' cars worth lots and lots of money, for example, and then sell them off and keep the profits and the proceeds of those. So this is a common thing. In fact, I would argue drug seizures in particular are great money-making vehicles for law enforcement. They seize all your shit, say it's illegal, and then sell it off and make profit for it. So it's good business for them to be in the business of raiding people's houses, stealing their stuff of value, and then selling it for themselves to make profit for the department. So again, just keep that in the back of your mind. Yes, I am a little critical of law enforcement. So even without forensics examination, several of the firearms seized were apparently illegally possessed. So this is their argument for why they're going to keep the guns, because even without forensics examination, several of the firearms were seized and were apparently illegally possessed. Therefore, they want to keep all the guns because some of them might have been illegally obtained, and therefore that gives them claim over all of Asa's shit, and she can go screw herself. They want the money. Those included 26 handguns and 15 unregistered assault weapons. Police took hundreds of guns out of the safe in Heuermann's basement while searching the home in July. So there you go. The law enforcement wants to use the fact that 15 or so of those 300 guns may have been illegal. So we want to keep all your guns and sell all of that shit and make money for ourselves and demonize you as something's just really optically wrong if you want your husband's gun back. That just seems a little sick, you know? So, but again, if Asa sells those with the, hey, these were owned by a serial killer, does that make her a little bit less sympathetic? That's questions I just thought I'd ask today. One more thing. Let's talk about the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer's belongings removed from eBay. I wanted to highlight that just a hair. So it says eBay removed the listing of the Jeep that belonged to Rex Heuermann, the man accused of the killing several women whose remains were found in Gilgo Beach in Long Island, New York. The listing was posted by Asa herself, Heuermann's ex-wife. eBay took the post down after Newsweek inquired about it. eBay's violence and violent criminal policy prohibits listings that glorify violence or violent acts. So again, when I was selling a basketball card with the Menendez brothers on it, they depicted that as being profiting off of violent activity. Now, I didn't, when I listed the card, didn't say anything about, hey, by the way, there's a couple of serial killers in the front thing. I just said, hey, here's this card everybody's selling for $27. But anyways, so the company told Newsweek the item violates eBay's policies and has been removed. Heuermann, who drew national attention in his arrest, is accused of murdering 7 women between 1993 and 2010, has pled guilty to the charges. Ellerup, a presence during several of her husband's court appearances, filed for divorce from Heuermann following the arrest, and the separation was finalized in March 2025. The eBay listing was for a 1972 Jeep AMC and a 1963 HOMA trailer, stipulating that they were owned by Rex Heuermann. There's where she gets herself in trouble. Listing in the listing that this was owned by Rex Heuermann. So maybe you might say, no big deal if Asa wants to sell the Jeep. Great. But if you're going to put in the title, Long Island serial killer, Rex Heuermann, who people know is the alleged Rex Heuermann Long Island serial killer, is that then profiting off or trying to profit off of the fact that her husband has been accused of killings? So is that making it less sympathetic? You ask me. Tell me in the comments what you feel about that. We're almost done, and that's what I want ultimately for you to do. Think about this. Tell me in the comments how you feel. Is Asa sick for listing things like Lisk in the the listing on eBay, which would be Long Island serial killer? Is she being sick by listing her husband's name, Rex Heuermann, as having owned it? Is she being sick, as we'll see, by suggesting that, hey, this car might have been owned during a period of time in which the killings were taking place? Is that all really pretty bad optics? Does it make her horrible? Or is she just simply trying to get every dime she can because she has no life skills and has to pay for her family and has no insurance and has cancer, by the way? So as of 5:30 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, the listing had been viewed more than 1,640 times and received 35 bids, reaching as high as $7,600. Starting bid was $1,000. Again, what does this say about the people who are buying memorabilia or murderabilia from Rex Heuermann, the alleged Lisk serial killer? Who is, again, in this story, I need to know from you in the audience, who is the sicko? Is it the people who are buying murderabilia? Is it the person who's selling the murderabilia? Or is it law enforcement who's seizing murderabilia and then selling it themselves? So anyways, now granted, maybe law enforcement, when they sold those firearms, wouldn't have mentioned anywhere that they were owned by the Long Island serial killer. Maybe, or maybe they would. All right. So, continuing on, I think there was just a few more things I wanted to get. The items description detailed that its vintage nature and unique model design and impeccable make. The Jeep has 5,200 miles on it and was being sold with both hard and soft tops, in addition to all soft and hard doors, along with additional parts removed, stored in boxes in the trailer. And then this is the one that gets her in trouble. Quote, the 1972 Jeep offers a nostalgic experience and is sure to turn heads on the road with its cool design. And if you're a true crime buff, the Jeep and trailer have quite a history, the description said. The owner was none other than Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann. Bum, bum, bum. So is she profiting off of that? And at the end of the day, that's what I want to ask you today. Leave a comment. Let me know. Is Asa profiting off of her husband's alleged killings? Does this make her somehow a despicable human being? Did Asa, you think, knew exactly what her husband was doing? Is she an opportunist, or is she creepy? And is law enforcement doing anything wrong by destroying her house, not paying for any of her belongings? She's still got a lawsuit against them trying to get the money back from destroying the house, but that's the way law enforcement works in America many, many times. So at the end of the day, who is your guess? Who is your guess on who the bad guy is?